Hi, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Pancast Show, episode 9. You might notice that I'm filming in the lovely basement today, been kind of banished down here, gotten in a little bit of trouble with my wife. Not only did I stay up late playing Call of Duty online with my friends, I came to bed smelling of bourbon and Cheetos. Not a good thing. So I think it's best I kind of lay low down here today, maybe keep the wife jokes to a minimum. It's okay though, these things blow over. Eventually she's going to call me back up. She's going to need to print, reset the Wi-Fi, or perhaps change an input. Okay, first up is a little battle between carbon steel and cast iron when it comes to making cornbread. Yes, cornbread. Now, as a former Southerner, every pan of cornbread I've ever made has been made in a cast iron skillet. Normally you use a Lodge 10-inch or 12-inch. I wanted to try carbon steel and see what would happen. Look at this. Here is the cast iron cornbread, pretty much what you'd expect. Really good crust on the bottom of the cornbread. Here is the carbon steel cornbread. Surprisingly, and I don't know why this surprises me, but it did a great job. Cornbread turned right out of the pan, no sticking whatsoever, and a crust every bit as good as that from the cast iron. Now there were a couple of hiccups here and a couple of things I want to note. My wife says she still prefers the cast iron here because it has that little helper handle. We always turn our cornbread over onto a plate, and that helper handle really did help get the cornbread out of the pan. So she still prefers the Lodge cast iron. I would note, however, that the seasoning on the carbon steel looked absolutely fantastic after making the cornbread. So I'm not really ready to endorse this yet. I'm going to do a little bit more testing. But what if it turns out that a great way to season a carbon steel skillet is just to make a pan of cornbread? Little carbon steel knife follow-up. Last episode we talked about these 10-inch Bob Kramer carbon steel chef's knives. Generated quite a bit of discussion. So the first thing here, after borderline maiming myself just getting this darn knife out of the package, I've got a little bit of fear and respect for this knife. I've actually started wearing shoes in the kitchen when I use this thing. Don't want to knock this thing off the counter and lose a toe. Now, a person named Rudy wrote in and asked me if there was a big difference between a 10-inch chef's knife and an 8-inch chef's knife. Well, that's a good question. First thing I did was get out the old ruler and do a little bit of measuring. So here you can see the 10-inch Kramer compared to 8-inch Victorinox and Hinkle's knives. Turns out a 10-inch chef's knife is not necessarily 2 inches longer than an 8-inch. Also, I note that my Hinkle's has somehow become magnetized. Not quite sure how that happened. Probably has something to do with science. The next thing here is it gets into a little bit of personal preference. Now, on the one hand, a 10-inch knife is definitely not quite as maneuverable as an 8-inch knife. Now, on the other hand, I'm not using this knife for any kind of precision tasks. I might use a utility knife or a paring knife or something really precise. What I'm doing with this knife is mostly cutting slightly bigger things like potatoes for French fries, for home fries. I slice zucchini, slice squash for things like a Tion. I cut up a lot of onions and carrots and celery for sofritos. For slicing things like that, nothing too precise, I think the 10-inch does a fantastic job. Along those lines too, some of this has to do with body type and your personal preference. I'm about 6'4". In addition, I have orangutan arms, so I can change a light bulb in an 8-foot ceiling with no step ladder. I can do it flat-footed. So for me, I kind of feel like that 10-inch knife might fit my body shape and type a little bit better than maybe the 8-inch does. Again, that's just a personal preference. Big box battle, Costco versus Sam's. In Sam's the other day, first up, I ran across these snacking cucumbers. What kind of sick people are there in this world who snack on cucumbers while they're still making Doritos? I don't know. That's not the battle. The battle this week is over milk. Milk at Costco versus milk at Sam's. Now the prices are pretty similar, no big winner there, but there are differences in the packaging, and here it's actually kind of significant. If you buy milk at Costco, they come in a 2-pack, in this cardboard box 2-pack, which is fine if everybody in your household likes the same kind of milk. Here in our house, my wife drinks fat-free, she gives 2% to my son, and I cook with whole milk. So if we were to buy milk at Costco, we'd end up having to buy 6 gallons. My wife says, well, just make room in your beer fridge, we'll stick it in there. That is not happening. So what I like here is that Sam's, even though it's a big bulk warehouse store, they let you buy 1 gallon of milk. So I like that. So in this big box battle, milk is kind of a push. If you want to buy 1 gallon, go to Sam's. If you got the storage space and don't mind buying in bulk, get your milk at Costco. And speaking of Costco, last time we put that poll up. Would you buy $99 a pound frozen Wagyu beef at Costco? Gotta say, I'm pretty surprised about this. Fully 22% of people said it seemed like a good price for Wagyu. I think they would buy it. Surprised the heck out of me. 22% extrapolated over millions and millions of people. There's a market for that high-end frozen beef. I didn't even know that existed. Then again, if Costco puts it on their shelves, they probably got a pretty good idea that a lot of people are going to buy it. A quick note on pan spotting. Where are the pans? Matfers and Mauviel seem to be in pretty good supply. The Debouillet Mineral B regular line seems to be in good supply. The Mineral B Pros that we talk about a lot around here, those are still sold out. They're sold out on the Debouillet website. I talked to them. They said they're expecting more now in the middle of February. Originally saying end of January. Now it looks like middle of February. So my best advice here is if you find a pan you like at a good price, go ahead and jump on it. Don't wait around. Now those Mineral B Pros, sometimes they pop up on Amazon. They're there one day, they're gone the next. So you just need to keep checking back. But if you find one you like, go ahead and buy it, especially if you're using one of my affiliate shopping links. Okay, carbon steel seasoning help. A fellow named Phil wrote in, sent me this picture of his pan, said he got this pan for Christmas, he's tried seasoning it, and this is what has happened. Yee! Now don't worry, Phil, we have all been there. As a matter of fact, the whole reason I have a YouTube channel is I was gifted a carbon steel pan, had trouble with the seasoning, resolved to figure it out, and now I try to help other people with it. So don't worry is the first thing. It looks like Phil has used way too much oil. That's probably what's happened. We've all done that a time or two, especially if we're new and learning how to use these pans. So here Phil is at an inflection point. He's got two main choices. He can either get that gunk out of there and start over, which involves either using some tomatoes, maybe a little vinegar, if nothing else, an SOS pad and a little bit of elbow grease, get that stuff out of there. Or depending on how thick it is, now I can't tell from the picture, he could just heat that pan again another time or two and try and turn all that stuff into hard seasoning. Might not work if it's too thick, if it's too gunky, but if it's not too bad, what he can do is just put that thing on the stovetop, bring it up to smoking, let it cool down, do that a time or two, and try and turn that stuff into hard, dark seasoning. Might work. Good thing about these carbon steels though, they're almost indestructible. If you do have problems like this, if you get some gunk in there, really all you gotta do is clean it out, re-season them, and keep on cooking. There's very little you can do to actually damage one of these pans, so don't worry. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Pancast podcast.